Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, back with another video so soon, but more Cathay news has been dropped, and I am here to read it and make a video about it. So let's hop straight into it. While we've had the roster revealed and we got to see siege mechanics, now we're getting actual gameplay mechanics for how Cathay is going to function on the campaign map, which is super exciting. So without any further ado, let's dive in. First, we have the Harmony system. So we know that Harmony has two functionalities. There is the Harmony in battle, which in battle, your units are either yin or yang, and if you have them close together, or sorry, if you have a yin unit close to a yang unit, they both get buffed. But there's also Harmony to work on in the Grand Campaign. So let's see what we're dealing with here. Harmony. As we've discussed previously, Harmony is everything in Grand Cathay. The smooth combination of ranged firepower and stalwart front lines, the well-being of the populace alongside your unswerving loyalty. As well as boosting the power of differently aligned units in battle, you must keep your faction as a whole in balance through considerate building choices, lord picks, and technology. Just about everything will nudge the harmony of your faction one way or the other, all tracked by a handy bar at the top of the screen. Should you drift towards one side, it will become cheaper to push back to the center, but your overrepresented buildings will be less effective and your control over your provinces will drop. Maintaining the middle point is the biggest reward, giving significant boons to all areas of your empire and a unique army ability to summon the spirits of ancestors long dead to help out in battle. With every research technology, built building, and hired lord trying to dislodge it, maintaining this for an extended period can be challenging, but it's more than worth it, even for just a couple of turns. So that alone is exciting, and I think it actually explains more in depth things about that can kind of swing it one way or the other, and what maintaining it in the center will maintain. But let's take a look at this. So this is the Whooshing Compass. The Whooshing Compass harnesses the power of the winds of magic to bring prosperity to Grand Cathay. Directing the compass fills the respective energy reserve. The greater the energy reserve, the larger the benefits are. However, the energy reserve of all directions will decay over time. So this is kind of the big thing you're going to be deciding over the course of your campaign. I wonder if this is supposed to be the old imp himself, seeing as it's a gold dragon. But we've got this... I opened this image. Now I cannot... There we go. I was like, how do I escape this? So the Whooshing Compass. We'll take a look at that in a second after we read the section. The Whooshing Compass is a great magical device built to the holy city of Wei Jin, created by the Celestial Dragon Emperor to control the winds of magic within Grand Cathay. Its primary purpose is to project power to and help defend the Great Bastion when it is under threat. But the progeny of the Emperor can direct it as they wish to serve their purposes. Moreover, the compass is directed whenever the compass is directed to one of its 4 points, that area begins to fill with magic. Most provide a faction-wide buff that is always active, with another that is only available when the compass is pointed that way. As that area fills with magic, the passive ability grows in strength. However, if the compass is pointed elsewhere, the magic in the area begins to drop, depowering the passive. This balancing act depends on your needs, as well as any emergencies you may be facing, and must be chosen wisely, as there is a turn limit on changing the compass again. Here's a breakdown of the regions and their effects. First is the Great Bastion. If the compass is pointed towards it, you will have an active buff that decreases the recruitment costs of units and provides a unique army ability to drop meteors on enemies. So you have a Comet of Cassandora on lockdown, ready to fire, but only when you're actively pointing at the Great Bastion. Meanwhile, the Great Bastion provides a constant passive, which is you gain additional supplies for Grand Cathay armies defending settlements and additional casualty replenishment for all armies. So the longer you keep it pointed at the Great Bastion, the more this meter will fill up. However, once you turn the compass away from the Great Bastion, this will begin to deplete over time. So you can have more supplies and more casualty replenishment if you charge it up significantly. And when you're pointed at it, you get that active bonus we talked about, but then your other areas will begin to suffer. Next is the Celestial Lake, which we have talked about a good bit, which is where the Great Bastion ends. So the passive is that it provides growth to all Grand Cathay factions, which is excellent. And the active buff, if you point the compass at the Celestial Lake, you gain an active buff that gives additional income and stronger winds of magic growth within Grand Cathay regions. So if you really, really like money and magic, that's probably going to be your go-to. The Warpstone Desert does not provide any passive buff due to the mass of Warpstone. So you should never point at the Warpstone Desert unless you want its active buff. However, the active buff it does provide is that it lowers corruption across all of Grand Cathay and guarantees lower winds of magic reserves. This also gives a leadership debuff to enemy armies inside the nation. So pretty much it seems that if you're having problems with chaos, they have gotten through the wall, or you're dealing with an internal invasion, you're probably going to point at the Warpstone Desert. And the last is the Dragon Emperor's Wrath. The passive buff provides control to all Grand Cathay factions, which for anyone that does not remember, control is the new term in Total War Warhammer for public order. So that's what they're referring to. I don't know if everybody's 100% aware of that. And then the active, which can only be unleashed at full energy reserves, applies a colossal amount of attrition to all Chaos forces besieging the Great Bastion. So if you see that there's a big old Chaos army coming at you, then you can try and build up this meter to full power and click this button. And when you click that button, Chaos is going to have a bad time because Dad gets involved, which is pretty awesome. So here's the actual compass. And as you can see, currently it's not pointed at anybody, but you could point it in any one of these directions. So we can see here the Great Bastion's at halfway full. And right now it provides 500 supplies, 4% attrition, or 4% casualty replenishment. The Celestial Lake, in the meantime, is providing +3 growth, and the Dragon Emperor's Wrath is providing +1 control. But if you were to point at any of these, it would then immediately activate the active buff. So you can see if you pointed at the Warpstone Desert, it would give you, it would reduce corruption for all the regions you own in Cathay. It would greatly decrease the winds of magic in Cathay, probably to nerf the hell out of Tzeentch, and it would also hurt the Chaos leadership if they're in your regions. Meanwhile, you know, you can kind of see them all there. So that is super exciting. Really like that mechanic. I'm super looking forward to playing Cathay. Next up is the Ivory Road. The Ivory Road. That means we're talking about ogres. Trade is important to Grand Cathay. It not only has a massive population, but a hugely different collection of magical artifacts and native flora and fauna to Kislev and the other nations to the west. Even the Ogre Kingdoms value the delights of Grand Cathay enough to pay for it when they feel like it, or raid the caravans when they don't. Which brings us nicely to the game mechanics of the Ivory Road, the central trade route in and out of Grand Cathay, running right through the lands of Zhao Ming and off to the Empire. When playing as the Grand Cathay faction, you can dispatch a caravan whenever you like, sending it along one of the many paths of the Ivory Road. This will take it through various regions, some of which may prove treacherous. At various points, you choose which direction the caravan will next take, with it progressing naturally across the map. While you don't have direct control over it, it does have vision as a normal army would, giving you important scouting information as it goes. With each major rest stop along the route, various events and dilemmas can fire. Found friends, ogre mercenaries, new routes, and many more surprises await upon the road. These can result in battles, bonuses, further cargo, or any combination. Once a caravan reaches a destination, you will receive money based on cargo amount and some other factors, and it will begin to return home. At this point, another caravan can be sent out. Each caravan has its own leader, a new lord type with a unique blue skill tree for increasing the boons of caravans, extra cargo, more replenishment between rest stops, etc. They can naturally also take various combat upgrades, depending on what you think they might get up to. The key to this mechanic is finding safe routes, or building caravans that can take the punishment of the big wide world, plus making smart decisions about how and when to fight. If you're opposing Grand Cathay in the campaign, surely you wouldn't dare, you can find their caravans on the map and attack them. Doing so, and winning, will destroy the caravan, making it a good way to starve Grand Cathay of resources. Of course, it does involve declaring war with all the diplomatic consequences that entails, The dragons may be pleased if you take out rebel caravans, but less so if you target theirs. This mechanic sounds awesome. I mean, super awesome. It reminds me of the good old days in the historical games like Shogun 2, where whenever you would establish a trade route, you had to actually pay attention to it and defend it, which is something I actually really miss. We have raiding stance because it represents, greenskins or Skaven or whatever coming in and stealing some of your stuff around. But I love the idea of there being large actual caravans that travel around the world, and they're large enough that they can defend themselves, but they're also large enough that they have lots of goodies. And there's going to be like a choose your own adventure style narrative to you saying it's going to come along and you'll get to crossroads and the game will ask, which way do you want to go? Like, maybe this is what lies off in this direction. This is what, like, do you want to try and go through the kingdoms of Greece's gold tooth? You'll have to pay him a bribe, but it's a lot safer. Or maybe a new mountain pass is opened up and you could try going through there. It's going to be exceedingly more dangerous, but you could avoid paying taxes to the Goldtooth tribe. That sounds so exciting. And I actually really hope that if we ever get the Dogs of War as a faction, they get an interpretation of this mechanic as well. To me, especially because the caravans have their own lord types, I'm really interested to know what those lord types exactly are, like if they're just caravan lords or what they're gonna kind of, because they weren't included on the roster, it seems. Because it doesn't seem like they're like a regular lord. They're like a specialist lord, kind of like a paymaster or a mercenary captain of some sort. But, obviously associated with Cathay and loyal to Cathay, but their job is to run the caravan, not to lead armies and conquer territories. So I'm really, really excited to see these characters, and I'm kind of thinking they sound like they might be like Black Ark Fleet Masters, where Black Ark Fleet Masters have a very specific role they can perform, in that their job is to travel the oceans, attack pirates, attack enemy navies, and attack ports to conquer or sack them. Like, the only thing I wish Black Arks could do that they don't, is I wish Black Arks could sit off of a coast and raid, so that, like, enter a raid stance. But, I mean, they can kind of do that, it's just they have to be supporting an army to do it. Because if you're Black Ark Parks, and that giant bubble of theirs is within support range of one of your armies that's raiding, it buffs the amount of raiding income you get. So, like, they can kind of raid, but not exactly. I am so excited for this mechanic. This is probably my favorite one that's been revealed, is the Ivory Road. Very, very excited. Next, we've got the Great Bastion. The Great Bastion sits in the northernmost part of Grand Cathay and is vital to the defense of the Empire, its people, and the world. It also forms a central part of gameplay for the nation. As you can imagine, it is more relevant at the start of a campaign to Miao Ying as she starts in the region, while Zhao Ming is busy dealing with rebel lords and various ratmen. That said, threats to the wall are a threat to the Empire, and Zhao will need to keep an eye on it as much as anyone else. The Great Bastion takes the form of a massive, impassable wall, with 3 gates that must be controlled and held by the forces of Grand Cathay. Chaos forces are constantly attempting assaults on it, but the larger ones come from a slow buildup of forces in the Chaos Wastes. These must be dealt with through sallying forth or preparing your defenses with commandments at each gatehouse if you hold them. Threat to the Great Bastion is tracked through a meter at the top of the screen, which fills as Chaos prepares an assault, and descends if they are defeated. Keep the threat low, and reaching 0 are looked on favorably by the Celestial Dragon Emperor, who will reward those who do so. Allowing a breach, as well as earning his ire, means Chaos is now rampaging through the soft heartland of Cathay, a recipe for disaster. The Fortress Gate cities, the Snake Gate, the Dragon Gate, and the Turtle Gate, share a unique building tree and commandments. These serve various purposes, and you will need to balance constant vigilance with the need for rest and recuperation at the edge of chaos. Once a gate is returned to its full glory at tier 5, it reduces the cooldown on using the Wu Xing compass. So, here we can actually see it up close and in detail. It's very similar to the, there's something else we've seen recently that's been put in the game that has this type of building tree, and my brain is struggling to remember what it is, but it looks really, really interesting. We kind of see, oh, look at the corruption. Wow, look at the corruption, guys. There's there's undivided corruption, vampiric corruption, Skaven corruption, Khorne corruption, Nurgle corruption, Slash corruption, and Tzeentch corruption. There are so many corruption types. Oh my god. There is so much corruption. That's super interesting. I really hope this means they're going to make corruption more dynamic. But, man, that also means if you're playing one of the bad guy races, you are going to be competing with all the other villains to be the biggest form of corruption. But here we can see for the province capital, the Bastion Fortress. There are fewer than 10 fortresses across the breadth of the Bastion, but they are strong points, cities within the wall that hold countless troops. So, looks like they're looking at level 5. Yeah, they're looking at the max level. So at max level, it reduces the cooldown timer for when you can change the whooshing compass, generates income, makes Cathay like you more, gives you a shitload of defensive supplies, 50 growth. When outside Ogre or Noskin Horn... Okay, guys, this literally confirms Ogres are in the game. This 100% right here... Undeniably, they just revealed Ogre Kingdoms are playable. Right there. Because it says, when outside Ogre or Norskin homeland. Also, I wonder if this means the Norskins are going to be expanded a bit. Because it sounds like Norskins are probably going to control the Chaos Waste territories as, like, their home base. And then, of course, here we see the garrison. Wow! Hey, Ogre Kingdoms! Like, we all knew, right? Like, that's not a surprise. But hey, official confirmation's cool. Alright, and then we got the tech tree. Naturally, Grand Cathay has a technology tree like many of the other races. Also, the High Elf Gates, that's what I was thinking of. Because those can build buildings, right? But I would love to see this become standard for the big fortresses. Like the Empire fortresses, the High Elf fortresses... Any like large defensive wall type thing, I really would like to see them adopt this format. They could build buildings, and like they have a upgrade tree and yada yada. Like, love it, mwah, mwah, love it. Technology. Naturally, Grand Cathay is a technology tree like many of the other races. We'll be highlighting anything unique about the layout and mechanics of the tech trees in these articles. For Grand Cathay, tech choices are split into 3 branches, which converge a few times through the tree. The central, at least large, offers minor improvements, but doesn't push in either yin or yang direction. So remember, we talked about harmony for the Grand Campaign. The other 2 are broadly focused on melee and ranged combat, though include many, many other elements, and push in the direction of yin and yang, respectively. Each technology research pushes your harmony in that direction permanently, with some doing this multiple times. That makes it a balancing act between what you need to buff your armies and your needs for harmony. This, along with all other systems that interact with harmony, can be quite a lot to govern every turn. Having harmony during key battles or moments is more important than maintaining it constantly. Though, of course, you could abandon that track to focus almost purely in one direction. Many technologies give boons to armies that are more one way than the other, and naturally affect the units that are most likely to be in those armies. Of course, each legendary lord has a preference too, and some of their skills can push one way or the other as well. A few times the tech tree for Grand Cathay recombines into one central point, then branches out again. Planning your next few turns of research into armies that you will want to support will give significant boons as you prioritize your route through the tree. There are many dead-end paths with big rewards, but which aren't the prerequisite for anything else. When to take those is vitally important. So if we look at this, weirdly enough, this is the only image that doesn't open on its own. So here we see that, so there's a central tree, which it looks like the tech tree is actually quite a bit bigger than this, because there's a sliding bar. So wow, this is actually going to be a huge tech tree. If I had to guess, it probably does this 2 or 3 times, where it goes woo, like it builds up and then goes down. So here we've got our yin technologies, and here we've got our yang technologies. And this looks incredible. I'm really, really excited to dive into this tech tree. This looks really, really fun. But, man, I love the yin and yang system. Like, there are characters that are going yin or yang. It sounds like if you take a lord that is, like if you take a Shukagon lord, a dragon-blooded Shukagon, that if they are a Yang wizard, it's probably going to push you in the direction of Yang, and if they're a Yin wizard, it's going to push you in the direction of Yin. So, like, depending on which lords you're recruiting, I wonder if that's going to make the Magistrate lords a kind of an easier pick at times, because the Magistrate lords, while they're not wizards and they're more of a support character, they also will not push the tree either way because they're just right smack in the middle. But what an oh god, I'm getting really excited. This is looking really good, and I'm glad we're getting a lot of really cool information. It's almost like we just had to wait. And if you think I'm not going to make a snarky comment about that every single time we get stuff revealed, you're wrong. But that's going to be it for this article. I am getting really excited for Grand Cathay. Like, I don't know how I'm not going to play these guys first. Like, it's going to be really hard to pick the first army to play. But I think the Harmony system sounds like a lot of fun. I really like the idea that what you're deciding to do on the campaign map can have consequences, as far as, like, maybe you find that, oh man, I really like playing with Yang, but you got to be careful, because if you start going too far in Yang, it's going to make your Yang buildings significantly less powerful than they normally are, and if you start leaning too heavily on that boat, you might be at risk of capsizing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how people interact with the different playstyles that are offered between Yin and Yang. Are you going to be someone that tries to maintain balance throughout the entire campaign? Or are you going to be like trying to speed run, getting to a certain point in Yin or Yang, and then running over to try and just grab enough stuff to balance it out? Or are you going to just say, like, screw it, I'm going all in on one particular thing? But I love this. We got the Ogre Kingdoms confirmation. As far as I'm concerned, that's confirmation to me. The fact that they're going to be playable Ogre homelands, making a fuss outside of the Great Bastion, has me pretty freaking hyped, not gonna lie. So we've got ogres, we've got technology, we've got the Great Bastion building tree revealed, we've got the Ivory Road trade system, and we've got the Whooshing Compass and Harmony. Please let me know what you guys are most excited about in the article. Let me know what's the thing that you're like, oh shit, I'm really excited to see how that plays in. Is there anything that stood out to you? Is there anything, just let me know. I'm really, really excited about this. I'm really excited to see the other races. Hopefully, I don't know when we're going to swing back around to Kislev, but I have a lot of questions about Kislev. So hopefully we'll get to swing back around to them at some point. But I imagine we're going to be heading into Zinch City not too far from now. But what a great reveal! What's just some really awesome mechanics that I cannot wait to mess around with. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the comment section and in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye.